Never.
Tom Jones on Masterpiece.
Watch live or stream Sunday at 9 on KPBS. Wake up to the world,
To the marvels,
the mayhem,
the music,
wake up to the commotion,
the humanity.
the hope.
wake up every morning, fully awake.
NPR Morning Edition.
Tune into your local station or download the NPR app.
Tonight at 8, news analysis from the Capitol on Washington Week. Then key stories from the region with the KPBS news team. And later, the murder of a former children's home resident on Death in Paradise. That's tonight on KPBS. You're watching KPBS. Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. By viewers like you. Thank you.
The migrant surge expected at the border has not materialized in the hours since Title 42 expired. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Tonight, we have coverage from both sides of the border, and we begin with KPBS border reporter Gustavo Solis, who went to Tijuana to see what happened after the pandemic-era asylum restrictions were lifted.
It's another morning in Tijuana. A steady flow of cross-border commuters making their way to San Diego. It's the first morning after Title 42, and it didn't result in chaos at the border. No hordes of migrants storming into the U.S., no heavy military presence, just an orderly line of roughly 100 asylum seekers entering the U.S. All of them had appointments through the Border Patrol's CBP-1 mobile app. All of them have family or friends ready to welcome them. This group included migrants from Russia, Armenia, Afghanistan, Haiti, Mexico, and Central America.
Pues siento nervios y pues gusto porque pues por fin pues pude obtener mi cita para pues poder tener una oportunidad.
Lisette Lopez is an asylum seeker from the Mexican state of Guerrero. She's happy but anxious about finally getting a chance to seek asylum. The pedestrian and vehicular traffic lanes were not impacted at the San Isidro border crossing. Friday morning's traffic was normal. The scene in Tijuana was similar to those in Texas, Arizona, and other places along the southern border. No one knows for sure why fewer people showed up than expected, but advocates are speculating that it might be due to the Biden administration's new asylum restrictions. They require asylum seekers to use the mobile app. Those who don't will likely get deported, unless they've already applied and been denied asylum in another country. The ACLU and other pro-immigrant organizations have already filed a lawsuit to block those restrictions. Asylum seekers who entered the country without an appointment through the mobile app are being treated much differently. Border Patrol agents there are funneling them into a makeshift migrant camp. People there say that they don't get enough food or water. They sleep outside without protection from the cold or rain, and there's no security at night. Andres is a Colombian asylum seeker. He says the first night in that camp, which is on U.S. soil, was the worst of his life. The long-term impact of ending Title 42 remains to be seen, but at least for now, Tijuana's migrant shelters remain full and ports of entry are not overwhelmed. Gustavo Solis, KPBS News.
Predictions that our county would be overwhelmed by asylum seekers don't appear to be playing out. KPBS reporter Kitty Alvarado spoke with the sheriff and a volunteer at the border about what's happening now.
Hundreds of men, women, and children are in limbo, stuck in an area between the U.S. and Tijuana border, on U.S. soil and in U.S. custody.
We have been providing
very basic necessities to about 400 families.
That's Adriana Jasso with the American Friends Service Committee of San Diego. The social justice nonprofit has been working at the border for over 2 weeks. She says asylum seekers, now mostly women and children, have fled from danger in their own homelands and now find themselves in precarious conditions. Most of them have been there 3 days, some of them a week.
We continue to see a very, very concerning and dire situation, especially with families, with parents, with small children. We have seen children who have run a fever for over 3 days.
She emphasized these asylum seekers are on U.S. soil and their well-being is now the responsibility of the U.S. government.
And we're asking for the authorities that are responsible for processing these people and for having contact with these people to act quickly, to act responsibly, and to uphold the basic dignity of so many people that have gone through this situation.
While hundreds are waiting for a chance at asylum, some are still crossing the border illegally.
It's really more of a humanitarian response for us, but we haven't seen large numbers either.
San Diego County Sheriff Kelly Martinez says they've added a squad of 11 deputies to patrol the rural back county, Campo and Jacumba areas.
So what's really happening for us is we have seen an increase of calls for service in some of our backcountry area, but I need to remind everyone those are calls for service, which are people calling for our help. They're not, it's not an increase in crime.
Martinez says they can only render aid, but like anyone else, if migrants commit a crime, they can be arrested.
The sheriff's department doesn't have any legal authority and it's actually against state law for us to enforce federal immigration laws. And we don't do that. We don't ask immigration status. And we don't coordinate or work with Border Patrol on immigration issues.
She also warned against civilian patrols along the border.
You know, we've got this as far as the Sheriff's Department. We're out here to keep our community safe.
Kitty Alvarado, KPBS News.
And we have more border coverage on our website, kpbs.org. And check out this week's episode of Roundtable for an in-depth conversation on what the end of Title 42 means for our region. California may be facing a deeper shortfall than anticipated to the tune of $32 billion. Today, Governor Gavin Newsom unveiled his revised budget of $306 billion. It is by far the largest state budget in the U.S. The deficit is also $10 billion more than the $22 billion Newsom predicted in January. The governor says that's partly due to federal inflation rates, the decision to let some people delay filing their taxes because of winter storms and the debt ceiling impasse.
Perhaps the most consequential is this man-made problem that, of course, is being advanced by a Californian here, the Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy, that is, once again, seems to only happen when Republicans are in Congress and Democrats are in the White House, manufacturing a crisis around the federal debt ceiling. That impasse continues.
You'll get what you got.
Newsom proposed a number of options to help cover the deficit, including delaying and reducing spending, tapping into unused funds from previous years, and withdrawing money from the state's safety net reserve. It's graduation weekend at San Diego State University. KPBS reporter John Carroll heard from members of the class of 2023.
It was black and red robes, mortarboards, and smiles everywhere you looked outside Viejas Arena today. And this is just the first of 3 days of graduation ceremonies.
Move their tassels from the right side to the left, symbolizing the moment of graduation.
You need that much time when you have more than 11,500 students graduating.
I'm here with my friends and family, my brothers, my parents, and my girlfriend.
Paul Farrow started his college career here right before COVID hit. He says it's been quite the journey.
In my first year, I had kind of just packed up in the middle of March and just head home. But thankfully, I was able to move back, and I think being back on campus, having the transition to having classes back, being in a classroom was kind of monumental.
Farrow got his Bachelor of Science degree in microbiology. He's from the Bay Area, but he's planning on staying right here.
San Diego's a great place to be for biotechnology in general.
I got a Bachelor's of Science in psychology and minor in child and family development.
Unlike Paul Farrow, Sarai Rosas Ortiz is a San Diego native. Like Farrow, she's planning on staying right here, and she has some big plans.
I'm hoping to open a Montessori daycare academy.
Looking around here, you saw what you'd expect to see, lots of young people. But we noticed one very unique graduate with quite a story to tell.
Faten Hamed El Mendou.
This is 68-year-old Faten Almondo. She's a refugee from Iraq, been here 10 years now. Almondo has a lifelong love of mathematics, and this summa cum laude graduate wants to share it.
I have a plan to make kids like math because I noticed that most of the kids in U.S. do not like math. They think that it is something hard.
San Diego State University's slogan is transform your tomorrow. Any university could say that, but being out here amongst these freshly minted graduates certainly gives you the sense that those transformations are well underway. John Carroll, KPBS News.
And graduations and the end of the school year mean many families will be heading out on summer vacation. And as Mike Valerio reports, new rules proposed by the Biden administration could add extra insurance for future flights.
What do passengers deserve if delays turn disastrous? Passengers like Pam Shelby left heartbroken after the 2022 holiday travel meltdown.
Because I wanted to visit my family, but there's nothing I can do about it.
New this week, President Joe Biden proposing a federal rule change that would compensate passengers for delays and cancellations caused by the airlines. It could take effect by the end of this year. But already in the European Union, passengers can receive up to $663 for significant delays.
One study found that the European Union required airlines to compensate passengers for flight delays. The number of flight delays went down.
Right now, 10 U.S.-based carriers cover the cost of meals for passengers and 9 cover the cost of hotels if delays or cancellations are caused by the airlines. But they do so voluntarily and can stop at any time. Brian Summers, founder and editor of the Airline Observer, says Biden's proposal could be stronger.
He didn't necessarily say you'd get a cash payment as you do in the European Union. You could get a travel credit or even frequent flyer miles.
Mary Schiavo, a former U.S. Department of Transportation Inspector General, says this signals a reversal of airline deregulation, which ushered in an era of misery.
Remember, the taxpayers of the United States own the airways. We own the runways. We own the airports. The airlines do not own those. We need to re-regulate in a grand scale with a coherent and intelligent United States transportation policy.
In Los Angeles, I'm Mike Valerio.
The San Diego region has more Indian reservations than any other county in the United States, but thousands of Native Americans also live in cities spread throughout San Diego. KPBS reporter Jacob Ayer shows us how a youth center is reconnecting those individuals, both young and old, with their ancestral heritage.
The San Diego American Indian Health Center is easy to see from the street in Bankers Hill, with beautiful Native American artwork on the face of the building. But right next door is a location that's harder to find, the organization's Youth Outreach Center. It's been providing critical programming for decades and bridging the gap between generations in San Diego's Native community.
And we are considered urban Indians because we all live in the urban area of San Diego. There are 18 reservations that surround San Diego, but they are Kumeyaay.
89-year-old elder Randy Edmonds says the youth center is a space for Native Americans of all nations to connect with their roots. He belongs to the Kiowa tribe of Oklahoma. His son Larry helps lead some of the youth programs at the center.
Having to learn their language, we get them involved in art. We have some classes in beading, moccasins, tucking circles, where a lot of natives will come in and get involved in a circle and actually talk about the things that they go through and how we can help them in their walk in their lives.
Larry's daughter and Randy's granddaughter, Melanie Edmonds, works at the American Indian Health Center just across the street.
It's nice when people come in and just say, oh, I didn't even know you were here. And we're like, we've been here for a while. And so I think that is unfortunate that a lot of people just don't know that we're here and don't know that we have the resources that they could really use.
The youth center programs are often fun, but some take a more serious tone. Those activities look to address intergenerational trauma in Native American communities.
So I had a boarding school experience, which actually what they wanted us to do was to be cleansed of our Indianness.
Elder Randy was part of a relocation program after his boarding school experience, which is what brought him to Southern California. He says many urban Native Americans in the U.S. have similar family histories.
And the intent of that relocation program was to assimilate the Native American into the mainstream of society. And that was basically to make him white.
Their work at the youth center includes passing down stories like Randy's and upholding traditions. They also team up with their health center to provide specially tailored mental and behavioral health services.
Maybe when I was growing up, I was afraid to show who I was just because you don't know if you're going to get made fun of. You just don't know the outcome of it.
Melanie says being around other people like herself and sharing their stories helped her to grow.
Working in Native communities has really helped me become a little more confident in being Native American. I do feel like there just needs to be a lot more awareness to people who are Native and want to get to know their culture.
Larry says the youth center programs connect people more deeply to their spirituality.
It's really a connection of community and to me through prayer and just having services for them and just having a place for them to go that they feel safe.
One thing all the programs at the youth center have in common, they're keeping traditions alive despite the odds.
We're still alive. We haven't gone anywhere. Our language is strong, our culture is strong, our spirituality is strong. And we want to pass that on to make sure that we're not remembered in history books like many people are.
The organization is hosting their 35th annual Gathering of the People at a Balboa Park powwow this Mother's Day weekend. Like at their youth center, they invite all people, whether native or non-native, or living on a reservation or in a city, to join. Jacob Ayer, KPBS News.
A meeting set for today between President Biden and top congressional leaders to discuss the nation's debt has been postponed. Financial analysts are concerned a default could hurt our already reeling real estate industry. According to Zillow, home sales would fall up to 23%, with rates for 30-year fixed-rate mortgages going up more than 8% by the fall. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen warned that the U.S. could default on its obligations as soon as June 1st if a solution isn't found. A story that generated a lot of interest this week is the pending sale of KUSI to the same company that owns Fox 5. So what does this mean for local TV audiences? SDSU's Miro Kopik offers his thoughts in the Friday Business Report.
So they go to somebody like Nexstar, who is a very large media company. They're a $5 billion company. They own over 200 stations in 116 markets. Nexstar also owns Fox 5. So the question is, there is definitely going to be some consolidation between the two operations, especially in the backroom, finance, accounting. Although in the short term, KUSI will be allowed to, or will continue to produce a lot of local news programming. And so that's a positive for them. But over time, the reality is going to be, how does Nexstar look to target a demographic in San Diego? By 2030, almost 50% of San Diegans are going to be 50 years old or older. So depending on how KUSI continues to evolve their news programming is going to be really dependent on how long they're going to stay KUSI in the future. But certainly between now and when the deal closes later in the year, and in the first year that Nexstar is going to run KUSI, it's going to be business as usual for the most part, and that's good news for local news and information.
Commencement season is kicking off, and as students walk off the stage, a job is not always guaranteed. But 12 students in Vista today got the chance to celebrate their graduation ceremony and begin a life-changing job. KPBS North County reporter Tanya Thorin has the story.
This is Oasis. She is only 2 years old, but on Friday, she graduated with the Canine Companions 2023 class. Not only did Oasis graduate, but she got to begin her lifelong job of helping Jason.
Hi, I'm Tim Gackstetter. This is Jason and Nancy, and this is Oasis. We're graduating with Oasis today.
The service dogs like Oasis are raised by volunteer puppy raisers before beginning their training to help people with disabilities.
Having one of these dogs bridges social gaps and really shows the community that, Oasis, good girl, shows the community that they're more than a person with a disability, they're the person with the dog.
Annika Schenkel trained Oasis.
We give the dogs enrichment, socialization, teach them their skills and tasks.
Then they are matched with a forever partner.
We look at what the recipient really needs and what the dog is capable of and what their natural abilities are.
Some of the things Oasis will be helping Jason with are picking things up from the ground and helping with doors.
Her best thing that she does for us is when we're out in public, she makes the wheelchair disappear, and everybody wants to come up to her and say hi and talk to Jason.
This is Jason's third companion, and every time the experience is life-changing.
She's very affectionate. So Jason says she's very affectionate, and she loves to give him kisses. Oasis, lap. Good girl.
Tanya Thorne, KPBS News.
And let's start with our weather headlines. Strengthening high pressure means we're still going to be dealing with some hot temperatures, especially inland, but things are staying a bit cooler at the coast. And heads up for some unsettled weather possible as we head into next week. Looking at what we can expect as we head throughout tonight. Oceanside down to 57. San Diego, you drop down to 58. Chula Vista, an overnight low of 56. Borrego Springs only to the low 70s, and Mount Laguna down to 54. Heading into the day on Saturday, things are looking very warm throughout California. Down through San Diego, things stay a bit toasty. Again, a little bit cooler, though, along the coast. 69 for Oceanside. San Diego, 68. Chula Vista, 69. But take a look. Ramona at 82. And Borrego Springs, 102 for your forecast as we head into the day on Saturday. How about Sunday for Mother's Day? Well, we still see those hotter conditions moving inland. Meanwhile, things are a little bit cooler along the coast as we head into the second half of our weekend. Taking a look here at your 5-day forecast, 69 for Saturday, 70 on Sunday, and then temperatures build a little bit more as we head into next week, but we'll see some areas of low clouds as we head into Tuesday and Wednesday. Inland temperatures are warm throughout this weekend, upper 70s on Saturday and Sunday, and then temperatures climbing as we head into next week. 80 on Monday, 82 on Tuesday, and they're up to 84 on Wednesday. Looking at your mountain forecast, the 5 days are looking into the 60s here. Mid-60s on Saturday, 64 on Sunday. Lots of sunshine to start next week at 62, and then Tuesday looks like the warmer day of the work week at about 64. And looking at your 5-day outlook in the desert, triple-digit heat continues. Saturday 102, Sunday 100. Things drop a little bit, but still hot on Monday, 98, and then we're right back to 100 degrees on Tuesday, and partly sunny and warm, 90 degrees for a high on Wednesday. For KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Ariella Scalise.
La Jolla Playhouse presents a new immersive theater experience called La Lucha at the Museum of Contemporary Art San Diego. KPBS arts reporter Beth Accomando got a behind-the-scenes tour of the show.
To appreciate La Lucha, you first need to meet the famed Mexican wrestler El Santo.
I think I must have seen some El Santo movie at some point, right? There was something in which the idea that there was both someone who, in person, did some extraordinary things in a luchador ring, and yet somehow also were superhero-like.
But what did El Santo do after he was done fighting off evil?
I was really struck by a series of photographs of luchadores who, outside of the ring, were in their more domestic spaces, but still wearing their masks. And it made me consider how there are moments in life that are maybe more private, that get less fanfare, but require just as much courage.
All of that informs David Israel Reynoso's new show, La Lucha.
Hello, and welcome to La Lucha.
He likes to take a culturally specific thing, like La Llorona or a quinceañera, and ask,
what are themes in it that are universal to the human experience?
Through his company, Optica Moderna, he invites audiences to peer through the eyes of another in order to see things from a different perspective or a new lens.
And so you as an audience member are invited in. You are met with an optician, your vision is assessed, and then you are outfitted with some optical gear. So your journey begins at a series of portals into this dimension. There are moments within your experience in which you then might get separated from your group. You will be invited through secret doorways. And so this space is very purposefully designed in a way that you are turning corners. You are disoriented in a way that I think feels playful.
Playfulness is key for Sol de la Rosa. He helps activate these spaces by choreographing the movements of actors who communicate non-verbally.
Kids play to make sense of the world, to create environments, to imagine and to create conflicts, then resolve them. And through playing, we're actually configuring larger human conditions that we can all maybe relate to. For me, luchadors are warriors that use the aspect of mask wearing to actually not hide but expose their internal dialogues and their fears, their traditions, their beliefs.
So luchadores are Mexican wrestlers, and they're a big part of our culture because there's an element of storytelling in that. If a luchador loses their mask or their mask is taken off, there's a very powerful thing that happens that involves shame and embarrassment. And so we're toying with this incredible theme of mask wearing.
And I think, too, the protective nature of how masks really are a second face that obscure sort of your true identity. And it made me consider how we in life have, more public versions of ourselves and more private versions. This idea of really hiding your identity in some ways and being very protective about it, and there's great efforts to then shame and ridicule those who are ultimately defeated and are failures within lucha libre. And so I think there's something in which we as humans, regardless of the fact whether or not we are in the ring or not, struggle with the fear of failure, of being defeated.
But can there be victory in defeat? Is there a value to the struggle? The answer may lie in the ring or in the cantina, where people have an opportunity after the show to compare notes and wrestle with complicated questions of identity, since no two visitors will have the same experience on a given night, and every show is just a little bit different. Beth Accomando, KPBS News.
You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Good night.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley. And by the following: and by viewers like you. Thank you. Tonight at 8, news analysis from the Capitol on Washington Week. Then key stories from the region with the KPBS news team. And later, the murder of a former children's home resident on Death in Paradise. That's tonight on KPBS.
Meet the father of video art, Nam June Beck.
He prepared the television to become something other.
He was unconventional.